we focused a lot on what's happened out of the Georgia case involving President Trump, about 15 other defendants. And again, I think there's Willis and Wade, they got a lot of explaining to do because they were obviously being set up by Trump's attorneys last week when they decided, when Willis, she ran downstairs to bust and said, let me answer some questions. And they were asked about, how many times did you visit with each other? Did you spend the night? No, and never more than 10 times. And then now they've got the cell phone evidence that, and again, this is about 30 to 40 miles apart. So it's not like they're real close to each other. And you could say that was just crossing over. I mean, they were 32 miles apart. If you're kind of like in Metro or Atlanta or even in the suburbs, that's a long way in Atlanta. That is 30 miles is a long drive. That's an hour drive, unless you're going like he did at 3 a.m. back home. Now, he also said it was under 10 times, and they've got 35 times there. I mean, just a lot of problems for her in this, not just the money and the personal relationship that they lied about. They were under oath last week. Remember that. Out of New York, President Trump gets a no on the extension for him to put together the $400 million bond. We got a call about it. If you want to have questions, 1-800-684-3110. James in Virginia is calling about it. Hey, James, you're on the air.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
My question is, Letitia James seems determined to the point of seizing his property for this ridiculous finding. Does she have a legal right to demand the money prior to the appeals process?
Yeah, in New York, yes. So every state's different. In New York, to appeal the case, you must put up the bond. So the bond here it's the $350 million, but you've got to add. There's interest on that. It also goes up each day by penalties. And the bond company, they're going to want about $19 million to even put up the rest some of that bond. So you're talking about somewhere in the $400 million range. For Donald Trump, even billionaires, that's a lot of cash, but you've got assets. So what his team was saying is, can we get an additional 30 days, which would give it about 54 more days from today? I know this because I was on TV yesterday about it. And I said, he's probably not going to get this. Most people likely would. It's a civil fraud trial, so it's not a criminal trial in the sense of, you're going to jail for 20 years and you're asking for, can I stay out of jail? No. You're just saying, hey, I will pay this amount, not even questioning the amount, or I'll put that up in bond. Just give us more time. So but he's not. He said no. So now he's got 24 days to do it. So going to be a rush for his team to put together that cash and assets. I think it'll be a mix of actual hard dollars and some of those properties. She said the building she would like to seize, which is interesting because, remember, this is the same judge who said, like Mar-a-Lago's worth like $18 million, which, by the way, you can't buy like a 1 acre lot in Palm Beach for. But they are saying that, one of his buildings in New York, 40 Wall Street, that would be fine for this $400 million. So in one way, his buildings are worth all these millions. None of the companies that made the loans didn't get repaid. None of the companies had problems, but in New York, they could say, even though you repaid the loan, your records weren't good. You shouldn't have got the loan, even if you could pay it back. So you've somehow then injured New York, and you owe us hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's the question that always comes up, and I see it in the comments there, which is, well, where does that money go if there was no, person or company that felt defrauded?
The coffers of the New York government.
So with that, of course, it's in their best interest to do this in some ways.
I mean, no, and here's why.
Well, just from a money standpoint.
If you hate Donald Trump politically, maybe.
Okay.
But from a money standpoint, if you're a business capital,
you're keeping a lot of business out of New York.
Guess who's going to second guess putting their company headquarters there?
Yeah.
Well, Donald Trump's not there anymore. Yeah. Guess who's going to think there'd be large hotels, international companies? If they're going to think, oh my gosh, it's maybe not likely they're going to do this to us, but if they get short on cash, they might. So again, it's a kind of crazy thing that's in that New York law, and it's now known to everyone in the country and world how they could say, I think they knew this. They could do this with this judge. And like I said, Donald Trump could win this case, and still he's out $20 million. For most of us, that would be, we'd be done.
Yeah.
That is for life. He's not going to be, obviously, for $20 million or this $400 million. But again, that's also when people say he's just running for president because he wants to be president for fun. You got to be kidding me. I mean, this prosecution wouldn't have happened if he didn't decide to run again for president of the United States. No way.
Well, you'll have a lot of people who will never run for president or decide to take any sort of public office, because why would you go through this? Why would you torture yourself and your family when you think this is what's going to happen? In the end, this is what happens in a lot of countries. It happens in a lot of countries worldwide, where your political leaders are the political leaders. They're lauded upon. They're the top guys, and then the waves change, and then they're imprisoned, and then they're tortured
executed
in the streets. This is what happens.
Yeah, usually their families don't usually even.
But not
live
here. We're not supposed to do that here.
No, we're not. Let me take this other call real quick. Janice in Tennessee on line 2. Hey, Janice.
Watch on Rumble.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Appreciate what you do for us. My question is, if he does win through the appeal court, can he retrieve his bond money?
So if you win the 400-ish million, yes, that's put up in bond. What I'm talking about is you've got to pay the bond company. They got to make some money, right? Because they're putting up this bond. That's good. In this size of a case, that's about $19 to $20 million. That's what's not going to be retrievable. So the 400 million, sure, maybe some attorney's fees, some in there, maybe, but because that's in the millions of dollars too. But again, you're still going to be out probably over $20 million, even if you're absolutely successful in this single case out of New York involving Letitia James. This is different than the Alvin Bragg case as well. So House Judiciary Committee also talking about, Fani Willis says someone's in trouble. This is a Friday. The question will be, does Fani Willis stay on this case by Monday afternoon? I don't know. I think that she's going to try. Her office says she's going to try and refute it. We'll see.
It's been a week since Fani Willis and her boyfriend Nathan Wade testified last Thursday. Yeah. The judge said he could rule as early as Monday as to whether or not Willis and Wade can stay on the case. How do you think this plays out?
I think it was a very bizarre, right? I mean, I think always the further you get from the actual those hearings, it gets less to predict, because that's not necessarily as fresh in the mind. It's a serious decision by a judge, even if they feel like there was a bad performance by DA Fani Willis, to actually remove her entire office from this case, restarting the entire trial, and putting a new DA in that position. But ultimately, what do I believe? She's totally compromised in this case for a number of reasons. Her political work, like Letitia James, running to do this to Donald Trump, and of course the personal relationship, the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and all this cash talk. It just doesn't seem right that she is in charge of this prosecution, and a new DA, which can be appointed in Georgia, should take a look at it, Rob, to decide whether or not this entire RICO fiasco should continue one step further. She's the district attorney that you're going to be working with. And of course, with McCaffrey, he was appointed by a Republican governor, but he does have to run for retention in this seat. So politics, it comes into play when you have these elected judges, even if they do or don't have an R by their name. But I trust that he's going to actually just make the best decision possible. Obviously, he's a young judge to take a case on like this.
Right.
But again, I think there's a good chance that Fani Willis has really messed up here and is taken off this case, and the entire case crumbles. It's not 100%, but I don't think anyone would be surprised at this point that case is crumbling. Well, it is crumbling, making it more difficult, and it totally could be dismissed by a new DA.
We'll find out on Monday. That's when we could get a ruling on this. Jordan Sekulow, appreciate you being with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.